From Juliana Peña's attack on the Lioness to Alex Pereira's shocker against Israel Adesanya, here are some of the most shocking upsets in UFC history. Starting with an obvious pick, Matt Serra versus Georges St. Pierre.
George Rush St. Pierre. Matt the Terra Serra. Welterweight championship is on the line.
Serra was a great mid-level fighter in the 2000s. He wasn't the best or anything, but he still had his days. And well, this fight was one of them. See, he was on the Ultimate Fighter 4 and was eyeing a title shot which was guaranteed to him by UFC. All he had to do was make his way through the welterweight field, which he surprisingly did. But there was one issue. To win the title, Serra had to face St. Pierre, who was already being dubbed by many as the future GOAT of the UFC. But Serra never cared about it though. He had nothing to lose in that fight. He could already feel the weight of the welterweight belt around his waist. Serra went into that fight as the clear underdog and came out of it a legend. He knocked Rush out in the first round of the fight. Like his opponent had no idea what hit him, and neither did anyone else. It was that big of an upset, and I think this win is probably the only reason why Serra was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2018.
Heard him 3 times in the last 60 seconds.
It is unbelievable.
But surprisingly, this fight was nothing compared to the shocker that was Juliana Peña versus Amanda Nunes. Now, this is where things get even better. Initially, nobody even cared about Peña's bout against Nunes at UFC 269. Why? Because people thought she never deserved a title shot, and they were totally wrong. See, the only reason why Peña got the title match was that she trash-talked her way into it.
Doing here, we're gonna run it back and do it again, and then maybe you guys will finally put some respect on my name.
Before that, she was on a 1-fight winning streak, and that isn't a stat that'll get you a title shot. But the trash talk worked like a charm for her. The Lioness, on the other hand, well, she was easily one of the best female fighters in the world. But what happened on fight night was unthinkable. The only person in the world who thought Peña could beat Nunes was basically Peña herself. She had that look in her eye that could scare off anyone. And on fight night, Peña destroyed Nunes. She submitted her in the second round of the fight and secured one of the biggest upsets of all time.
Oh, Juliana's got it down. She's got a choker. She's got a choker. She's got a choker. She's got a
It was freaking insane. Speaking of insanity, the next fight was nothing short of it. Leon Edwards versus Kamaru Usman 2.
Usman had hand surgery several months ago, was hoping to headline International Fight Week in July. Doctor said he needed more time. Salt Lake City's gain.
These guys' first bout was one of the biggest fights of all time. A fight of this nature was rarely seen in the welterweight division before. In their first bout, Usman completely dominated Edwards.
Being really dangerous is just a few inches, but those few inches are gigantic. Where he was just wasn't dangerous. He was a few inches from dangerous.
Fight goes the distance.
The British star had no chance against the Nigerian Nightmare. Usman won it via unanimous decision, and the people expected him to produce something similar in the second fight. But Edwards had planned something else. This time, Usman's welterweight title was on the line. Edwards started off brilliantly, as he became the first ever fighter to knock Usman down in the UFC. But Kamaru gathered himself up pretty quickly. His takedown game was on point for the rest of the fight, and he was way ahead on the scorecards. Edwards had to produce something special to win this one, which he did. Leon tried to catch Usman with his right hand, but the Nigerian ducked. And what happened next was crazy. Edwards hit Usman with one of the most brutal head kicks we've ever seen. And that was it. Usman was out cold, and Edwards was the new champion.
Count Edwards.
But that is not the cloth from which he is cut. I mean, that is a dejected...
There it is.
This win shocked the whole UFC universe to the core. At least there wasn't any doubt about the winner in this one, because many consider this next one a robbery. Sean O'Malley versus Petr Yan.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Sugar Sean had all the hype behind him going into this fight, like Dana White even dubbed him as the next Conor McGregor. But see, people still had their doubts. Was he all hype, or could Sean actually back it up? Petr Yan, on the other hand, is one of the most dangerous grapplers in the promotion right now, and not many people expected O'Malley to beat him. But Sean took this as a chance for him to turn his haters into admirers. The bout went on for all 3 rounds, and what a fight it was. Everyone thought that 3 rounds weren't enough for this one, and they were right. We wanted more action. Both fighters just went for each other in this one, but Yan had an upper hand when it came to takedowns. He secured 6 against Sean, but O'Malley was ahead of him by a convincing margin in terms of significant strikes. It was 69-51 in favor of Sean, and that's what won him the fight, despite not scoring more takedowns against Yan. But this is something that people weren't ready to accept. When judges announced Sean as the winner, the whole arena was shocked, and people wanted Yan to win just because he secured more takedowns.
The winner would get a title fight. Do you expect that after this win over Petr Yan?
Honestly, I really want to watch the fight back and decide after that. I don't know. We still got to see the fight after this.
But I think the judges made the right call. Thankfully, the judges weren't blamed in this next one. Alex Pereira versus Israel Adesanya.
He weighed himself, and he was somewhere in the neighborhood of 220 plus pounds.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Well, his coach told us.
Yeah.
He'll be 210, 215 tonight.
Yeah.
The rivals faced each other once again. It was their 3rd fight, but the first inside the octagon. Adesanya had an upper hand over Pereira in terms of experience and skill. Pereira was relatively new to MMA as compared to Adesanya, so everything indicated towards Adesanya to win this one. And while watching the fight, it was quite clear that Adesanya will win, but Pereira never planned on going down that easily. Although, for the most part of the fight, it looked like he was the one who'll go down. Adesanya dominated the Brazilian. He literally manhandled him for the whole fight. I mean, Pereira was just horrible for 4 straight rounds. I don't know how he wasn't knocked out. Maybe he was lucky. But in the 5th round, the fight turned on its head. Poatan somehow found the strength to throw a big right hand at Adesanya, but Adesanya wasn't giving up. He tried clinching him, but as soon as he lifted his arm to do so, Pereira threw a murderous left hook, which stunned Adesanya, and he was out. The whole arena was shocked, and it was a sensational TKO win for Pereira, but not quite as shocked as they were with the outcome of Tai Tuivasa versus Derek Lewis. Tuivasa just shocked and stunned the whole crowd after his knockout win against Lewis at UFC 271. Lewis is regarded as the one and only knockout king, and when the knockout king gets knocked out, it is something special. Derek was all over Tuivasa in the first round. He had the fight under his control. He even knocked Tai down twice in the first 5 minutes, but Tai was never giving up. The fight went up in the second round though. Both fighters looked strong. They traded some fierce blows in the second round, but Tai was hiding something special under his sleeves. He went after Lewis with some big right hands, and it looked like he was already out. Derek was struggling to even stay on his feet. He was crumbling all over the octagon. That right there was Tuivasa's moment, and he made the most of it. He ended the fight with some sweet elbows right to Lewis's face, and he went face first to the ground. And those thunderous elbows were enough for Tai to make a name for himself in the heavyweight division. It was amazing. But that's all from me on the most shocking upsets in the UFC.